Hello, everyone. Larry Tucker here, your change process owner. And I'm glad you decided to click on the video and learn a bit more about some of the exciting changes we have upcoming. As the infographic showed, there was a number of changes that I think you'll be very excited about. And this video today is going to delve a little bit more into each one of those changes, as well as talk about some of the changes that we're going to do in sprint number 2, which is currently slated for the March timeframe. So this slide depicts in detail all the different fields that are being removed or hidden, if you will, on the form. First up is the Architectural Review Board field, the CCAB Early Presentation checkbox. I think that field probably caused more confusion than benefit. If you do happen to have a change you want to present in an earlier CCAB, just contact me and let me know. Next is the requires OMT notification. That's no longer needed. Our OMT, or EOC as they like to be called today, is going to assess all changes going into the system, and they will determine what monitoring needs to be disabled and alerts to be disabled as well. Additional comments field that was located within the comments, work notes, and activity tab. Through some data analysis, we determined that field was never being used. Communication plan field and tab, that's being removed as well. So if you have any special communications that you would like sent by the technician, make sure that's all noted within the change plan itself. The change narrative tab and the fields within, except for the LOBs impacted. Many of the business units found that field very helpful, and it's now on a number of reports. So we've decided we're not going to remove that field, but we are removing the business outcomes, systems impacted, system outages, and worst case scenario fields. And the big one here, the change freeze override tab, it's going to eliminate 13 required fields whenever you conduct a change freeze override. That's a big one. Now, keep in mind, change freeze override process is still going to require the CIO approvals and everything else. Nothing else has changed. You just will no longer have to fill out all these fields. All right, in these next set of slides, I've actually taken some screen snaps and I'm going to give you more of a visual presentation of what's been removed from the change form itself. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, I've highlighted the CCAB early presentation, top right-hand side, the ARB field that I mentioned, and then the requires OMT notification down below. All of those will no longer be on the form. Next up, I have the change narrative tab, and of course that tab's going away as mentioned. Business outcome, systems impacted, system outages, and worst case scenario fields are all going away. And once again, the line of businesses impacted field is going to move up under the change description field up on the main body of the form. Next, couple screen snips, the communication plan and that field and tab are going to be gone. The comments, work notes, and activity tab will remain, but the additional comments field itself will be gone. Now the big one here again, the change freeze override tab. If you recall, when you click on the change freeze override, this tab appears and you have to complete all these required fields. 13 different fields. You no longer have to do that as part of a change freeze override. So we've removed a lot of fields, but we are introducing one new field, and that's called the category field. As you can see here, it's going to be a drop-down list that you have to choose from, and hopefully this will help you understand a little bit better what the primary impact of your change is going to be, and it's going to help us also identify whether or not the ICAB virtual cab that I mentioned earlier will also be invoked. So we have application software, system software, again, the infrastructure, hardware and network is what is meant by that right now. unified communications, database, endpoint, messaging, mobile computing, and other. So if there is anything else you would like added to this, just contact me, shoot me an email, and I'll definitely take it under advisement. Okay, I'm just going to take a moment to talk about the new infrastructure virtual microcab, or as I like to call it, the ICAB. The members of that group will be authorized to approve right now infrastructure only related changes. This, for now, would pertain mainly to activities being performed by teams like Conrad's team, Mahalik's, and Polling's teams. Other teams will be considered later. However, we're going to start with those and let it bake in for a little bit. These changes will not be constrained by our existing CCAB process. Once approved, they can be executed at the approved date and time on the change request. Members include Kyle, Brian, Jeff Garner, Anand, Rodney, and Jason. This group can be modified dynamically, and members can be removed or added very, very quickly. So if there's a need to add some new folks, let me know. They will only be able to approve a normal change requests that meet the following criteria. Again, it must be a normal change, must be low risk, and the category must equal infrastructure. ICAB approvers are systematically added to the change request, very similar to like urgent final approvals. Once two individuals approve the ticket is marked approved and authorized for execution. The other thing to note is that ICAB approvers are prohibited from being both first level and final level approvers. If you're an ICAB member and you approve at the first level, you will not be added as a final approval. Okay, as with any change, you probably have some questions, so I tried to anticipate a few of those and I'm going to present to you now. First, will normal low-risk infrastructure changes remain subject to freeze periods? Now, these are those changes that would normally go in front of ICAB. Yes, they would be subject to change freeze overrides and would require CIO approvals. So in this situation, change freeze approval through the CIOs overrides ICAB. Will normal low-risk infrastructure changes targeted for execution during a maintenance window be approved by the ICAB group? No, all those changes submitted in support of a maintenance window will be reviewed and approved at one of CAR's regularly scheduled CCAB meetings. So again, in other words, ICAB cannot approve anything that is slated for a maintenance window. Will my existing change templates continue to work, or will they require updating to account for the removed fields? The good news is no updates are required. Your change templates will continue to function properly. However, you will receive a conflict warning notification. Click on See Details when that pops, and you can see the fields that didn't populate, but that's it. It's just a warning. It should populate all the other fields that are within your template. So sprint number 2, which is currently slated for March, barring any other priorities that may come in, we're going to introduce a risk wizard, all normal and urgent changes. We'll have a risk assessment they'll have to complete. It will be nothing more than a series of very short 5 questions, which will yield a risk score for your change. Second bullet there, the manager of the change owner group responsible for the change will automatically or systematically be added as a first level approver. It just made sense to us. If you're managing a team and that team's the one implementing a change, that we're going to add you as a first level approver. Now, we're not going to enforce that. It can be deleted if necessary. but it just seems like it would be a good practice. The third bullet there, merge data centers and access to data center required fields into a single field. I'll get into a bit more of that when we get into the March highlights and I talk about those changes. And evaluate broadening the scope of the ICAB for other groups. Again, right now it's just hardware and network. We're going to let it bake in a little bit. We're going to see if it, works out, doesn't introduce any additional risk within our environments. And if everything seems to be going well, we'll definitely consider it for other groups at that time. That's all I have today, everyone. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions or concerns with any of this, please feel free to reach out to me. Take care.